We're finally okay. What's good, everyone? Welcome back to another reaction video. Today we are reacting to a character nobody cares about, just solve FNAF. So yeah, I have no idea when it comes down to it on who this character is, what it's about, and all that. I just got really interested in it when it was a part of my recommendations. But um, considering that from the I don't know the view chapter part, it's something about Ballora, which actually kind of makes this a bit interesting because Ballora, if anyone doesn't recall, and it'd be a bit hard to say otherwise, but if no one does recall, Ballora is a stand-in for Mrs. Afton. From what was learned, and if my facts are correct, technically, William Afton made Ballora in the likeness of his wife, Mrs. Afton, hence why Ballora is like one of the only human animatronics that's actually a part of Fazbear Entertainment. Well, not Fazbear Entertainment, more like Circus Baby Emporium. But yeah, outside of Ballora, the only other animatronic is his daughter, Elizabeth Afton, who Circus Baby was kind of modeled after. So yeah, there's that. So I'm guessing that the importance of Ballora being Mrs. Afton is a big thing here. So yeah. Anyway, hope you all enjoy this video. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification button to be notified immediately when the video comes out. The link to this video is going to be down in the description below, so be sure to give the original creators some love and support for the video that they made. And yeah, other than that, I'll be sure to see you all. Wait, not. Ugh. Sorry, this is like another reaction video I already had to do. But yeah. Anyway, yeah. Hope you all enjoy. Hit the like button, all that other good stuff. And let's get around to this video, shall we?
What if I told you that a FNAF character who seemingly has no important lore to offer actually holds the secret to understanding the many things that have gone down in and around this bunker? You and every other FNAF theorist have probably been overlooking this animatronic, so stick with me today as we carefully analyze Ballora to fill in the gaps. We'll begin our analysis with Ballora from Sister Location and branch out into analyzing the Balloraverse and Ballora-adjacent things. Let's make some observations about Ballora and see where they take us.
She has breasts.
No, not that kind of observation, Gibby. Although he's on the right track, we actually have a couple things to cover with the original Ballora, and the first one matters more than you'd think. Her design. Ballora is part of the Funtime animatronic lineup, and she's one of two unique designs in that lineup in that she isn't a Fazbear character. Her and Circus Baby seem to be original characters from Afton Robotics. That alone already sets her apart from what we're used to at this point in the series. But our first real detail to note is right up here. The eyes. One interesting part of her design is the closed eyes. It's a unique design choice that adds to Ballora's creepy factor when she pulls back her face and we actually get to see the eyes. Except we almost never do. They can appear for a split second on the title screen, or when Ballora is scooped, or when you freaking die, but they're almost always closed. Even in her custom night jump scare, Scott doesn't bother opening them. And here's the strangest part. The eyes don't open with the faceplates. They're two entirely separate mechanisms. Scott had actually planned to have a frame in the game where Ballora was up against the glass of the control gallery. The faceplates are open, and yet the eyes remain closed. This is clearly an integral thing that was on Scott's mind when designing the character. The closed eyes are our first thing to note. Then there's this. I don't really know what to call it, but I'm gonna go with a necklace for now, even though there isn't a string or any link tying it around her neck. The necklace is made of light-colored jewels.
Good question.
It's a small detail on her casing, but one that has to go in our evidence folder. Beyond this, we can note that she's clearly a ballerina, a performer, and appears to be modeled after an adult woman. Let's shove all that stuff inside the evidence folder too, and move on to the second thing about Ballora we need to investigate, her character. Because the character details matter just as much, if not more, than her design. Here's how we're introduced to Ballora.
This is the Ballora Gallery Party Room and Dance Studio, encouraging kids to get fit and enjoy pizza.
Wait, that's interesting, because take a look at the Funtime animatronics lineup. Something is missing. Can you see it? It's Chica. Present in the bunker are iterations of all the core animatronics. Freddy, Bonnie, Foxy, except Chica. And that absence becomes important in relation to Ballora. In a later game, Security Breach, Glamrock Chica will be the one encouraging kids to get fit and enjoy pizza. The character has an obsession with pizza and is the head of an exercise attraction. Now, here's where things get a little weird. There was actually concept art being developed for Glamrock Ballora, who presumably would have taken the place of an exercise attraction. For whatever reason, Ballora seems to be filling the role that Chica would have been filling in Circus Baby's entertainment and rental. Alright, shove that in the evidence folder. So now we have closed eyes, this necklace, her being an adult performer, her being an Afton original character, and her and Chica filling the same roles. Where am I going with this? Well, it'll all become clear after we discuss the part you've probably been waiting for. Ballora's song. Interesting. Before we jump to conclusions, we need to address something. Scott Cawthon has stated that the voice actress for Ballora was responsible for this song. That could either mean that she wrote the lyrics themselves or just wrote the melody. Now, some people hear that and immediately...
Wait. That took me a second to process. So you're telling me they were part of the design of that song? That's actually really cool. Whether she wrote it or just sang it or whatever, that's actually a really cool thing to actually hear.
Assume the song has no lore significance, but that doesn't really follow. So even if the song wasn't originally written as some grand lore reveal, that doesn't mean it wasn't later used intentionally. It could be that Scott, like he often does, took this thread from an old game and made it significant later. It could also be that Scott gave the voice actress a set of guidelines to stick to when writing the song. Either way, the song matters for what we're talking about today, because it's completely out of place. This is a ballerina animatronic in a rental facility for children's parties, and she's singing about isolation, loneliness, and possibly about freaking death. It's one of the very few things we get to hear from Ballora. She's not a yaposaurus like Circus Baby. So instead of brushing this off, let's actually look at what she's saying, line by line. This is clearly a song about loneliness. Ballora isn't threatening someone here. She sounds upset and is asking why someone is hiding from her, specifically behind their walls. That wording matters. Inside your walls, referring to separation between Ballora and whoever she's speaking to. This could either be referring to emotional withdrawal or someone literally hiding in their own isolated space. Ballora literally plays music, but the music being referred to here is usually interpreted as metaphorical. The word music is likely a stand-in for life or joy. Ballora is asking somebody to come out of their isolation and interact with her.
Interesting.
Mourning a loss. It seems we can avoid it no longer. There's a point we have to discuss. Since we've known who William Afton was, there have been theories that Ballora is Mrs. Afton. Like many theories today, this one was popularized by MatPat. It essentially argues that Ballora, as a character, is either possessed by or represents Mrs. Afton. The fun times are all Afton's creations, and he would be in charge of designing them. MatPat had his own explanations for why certain design choices were made for Ballora. The eyes being closed, for example, was a reference to Mrs. Afton being blind to the importance of William's work and experimentation. William was the one hiding in his walls, his workshop, working away on animatronics and trying to figure out how to fix his son. Hence the next line, "All I see is an empty room. No more joy, an empty tomb." It creates a very clear picture. William Afton shuts himself into his studies after his son dies. He throws himself into the work, obsesses over it, works a little too hard to bring him back, and in doing that, he neglects everything else. His wife, his remaining children, and his responsibilities as a husband and as a parent. When you frame it that way, it fits almost too well. The lonely adult woman animatronic with closed eyes that sings about isolation and loss. It feels deliberate, and it feels like the answer. This theory that Ballora represents Mrs. Afton is not where I'm going. We're going somewhere else. And to explain where, we need to talk about a woman. Clara. Truly a terrific character.
Okay, so we're not... Okay, now I'm lost. I'm gonna admit that right now. Because from the sounds of it, it sounds like he's not really gonna focus on that kind of concept instead of focusing on other effects. Which, admittedly, is actually a really smart thing to do, since focusing on one set of facts that's been pointed out could just make you determine justifying key points and parts that connects to that conclusion, no matter what. So he's going by a completely blank slate. Interesting.
In between each Night of Sister location, we witness an episode of The Immortal and the Restless, a soap opera telling the story of Vlad and Clara. Now, to most people, Vlad and Clara are either seen as allegories for William and Mrs. Afton, or William and Michael. And not Michael in a weird way, just because the logbook expresses how he relates to Clara, and they are both lied to by William constantly. Clara's going to be our first stop on the Balloraverse today, because of this necklace that she's wearing. Now, yes, Twitter, I know that just because two women are wearing necklaces does not mean they are the same person, but counterpoint, I'm theorizing. So let's actually look at the show itself. Let's break down each episode of The Immortal and the Restless. The plot of Immortal and the Restless is an argument between Vlad and Clara. Vlad is arguing that their baby isn't actually his child, and Clara is arguing that it is. And the important thing here is that the baby is very obviously Vlad's child. It's a vampire baby. It sleeps upside down. Despite having the characteristics of Vlad, Vlad is adamant that it's not his child. The second episode reveals that Vlad works late nights. Alright, nothing crazy, just a detail to throw into the evidence folder. But it fits a pattern we've seen before. Alright, let's check out episode 3 with our popcorn.
Clara, it's not my baby.
Vlad, you suck.
Wait, was that a vampire joke? That was so lame, Clara. Like I haven't heard that a million times.
Okay, well, how's this? I'm taking the car.
The joke's on you. It's a rental.
Well, the joke's on you. I set the thermostat to 90 before I left.
Good. I like it warm.
Good, because I also set the house on fire.
Wait a second. The pieces are coming together. Clara is a distressed mother who wants her partner to recognize that their child is actually his. She doesn't like his work habits, and she tries to convince Vlad the child is his based on the way the child acts.
Let me guess, this is going to be a whole thing about how to actually go about this. Basically, this is a whole thing about how after an incident, William doesn't view Michael as his own child and neglects him the most, or something like that. I think I remember hearing a theory like that, in all honesty.
And then, very importantly, Clara is the one responsible for burning down the house on the hill. Now, those traits might line up with Mrs. Afton, but they absolutely line up with somebody else. Someone responsible for burning down the house on the hill. A mother who wants her husband to accept that their child is his. Fiona. Clara represents Fiona, and the final episode supports this.
You call that a house? It was like a morgue in there.
Their kid died around the house. Check.
I may be undead, but you're heartless.
F10N4 is literally a heartless robot by the time she becomes the mimic. Check.
He ate the cat!
Sounds like something he got from your side of the family.
M2 was based on M1 and comes from M1's code. Check. Now that we're here, there are two routes we could go. The first one I do not like, and the community has charmingly dubbed it Ed Cock. Oh my god. The idea is basically that Fiona was cheating on Edwin with William Afton. Vlad is clearly...
Wait, this is a theory? I don't know how to take this. I'm gonna be honest. I actually lost their words. Why would they think that? That doesn't even make sense. Edwin and Fiona were like a really good couple. They didn't have arguments or anything like that.
Supposed to be Afton, so having Clara be Fiona could imply that they were a thing.
Also, this was around a really, really different time period, so I don't think that would be the case. I just
really
don't
buy
it.
that. The cleaner explanation is it's a thematic mirror. Fiona and Mrs. Afton are deliberately supposed to be similar characters in their respective families. Steelwool has said in interviews that themes from the Afton saga are repeating themselves in the Mimic saga. So Clara likely represents both characters, which brings us back to Ballora. Ballora, who also expresses loneliness and the loss of a child. She actually links to Fiona slightly better than to Mrs. Afton, simply because she's a performer, which we know Fiona was before meeting Edwin. She was a puppeteer. So now the real question becomes, why does Ballora act like Fiona? There are one of two reasons this could be. The first reason is that we are inside the Fazburger. You've probably heard this one before.
What?
About 5 billion theories on YouTube have proposed that every location in the FNAF universe is actually all on the same plot of land. And there's a lot of evidence to back this up. So if that's true, the land itself contributes to this. By this logic, the grounds themselves of FNAF would be haunted, and the spirit or remnant of Fiona may be influencing things going on through the field. This is actually a theory called Fate Fiona by Gibby's Horror Homestead. It wouldn't technically be possession, just the presence of Fiona on
That's actually a really interesting theory. I'm not gonna lie.
On the grounds is enough to make certain things play out. However, the second option I enjoy much more, and that's that our favorite chud, Willie Mafton, is a talentless hack who stole the mimic code and used it for the Funtime animatronics. We know several of the Funtimes have a mimic feature, so if the mimic AI was applied to a motherly robot character, it may have taken on the motherly personality it was already used to. But
That actually kind of makes
kind of at the end of our rope here.
sense.
We need a little more information, so we have no choice but to go back into the Balloraverse. Here we go! Launching in 3, 2, 1.
She has breasts.
Wow, we're passing by the subscribe button on our way. We should press it to get more good videos. We're here. The famous Illumix game Five Nights at Freddy's AR special delivery. Interestingly enough, Ballora was added to this during the Dark Circus update. That
Really?
checks out. She's a Circus Babies character. But the circus theming is interesting considering Murray's is largely carnival themed, featuring mascots like Jackie and possibly literally having the codename Carnival. Now, the important thing, Clockwork Ballora. A skin that's an
Clockwork.
older version of Ballora, mostly made of gears, playing a little music box. It gives the same feeling as seeing DJ Music Man and Maestro Music Man, an older version of a character made from more rudimentary parts. This Ballora's mini arenas also have glowing green eyes for some reason. And green has long been a color associated with the Mimic, if you've been paying attention to Ruin in particular. Out here in the Balloraverse, we also have characters like the mom from the Jester cereal commercial, and the mother at the head of the staff bot table, but they only really share appearance similarities with Clara and Ballora. I don't see much thematic in their dialogue that calls back to the isolation and loneliness idea, so they're not really worth noting. So now, the ultimate question. Why did I bring any of this up? Why draw attention to such a strong correlation between Fiona, Clara, and Ballora? Well, because it tells us something about the lore going forward. First,
I get.
we can use new characters from the Steelwool saga to inform us about old characters from Afton games. Steelwool Studios has straight up said the series will repeat its themes. They use the word rhyming, and the similarities between Fiona, Ballora, and possibly Mrs. Afton show us just that taking place. But the second implication I feel is bigger. I don't think there's supposed to be an Afton saga and a Mimic saga. I think there's just FNAF. The woman burning the house down does not fit into what we know about Mrs. Afton at all, and other Clara candidates don't burn down the house either. But this house on the hill absolutely does burn down, and Fiona's responsible for it, meaning that many aspects of those Immortal and the Restless cutscenes apply more strongly to her than to Mrs. Afton, who we technically know nothing about. Scott just took us back to the oldest point in the FNAF timeline and filled it with new characters, and I think to not conflate the two parts of the series at all isn't gonna get us anywhere. I believe Scott is still taking old story threads and extending them, using old things to lead us to new conclusions, which means that moving forward, we should look back at details we were once confused by and see if they might be informing us about new things Scott's doing. We're finally getting closer to understanding how Scott's mind works, and it's all thanks to Ballora. If you enjoyed this video, freaking subscribe, and also check out this video where I actually put...
Okay. We got an interesting thing right here. Not gonna lie. So, the truth is that, while it could be true and possible to say that Ballora is modeled after Mrs. Afton, it's also not the truth, or the full truth, from this theory. In this theory, it implies that Ballora is supposed to represent both Fiona and Mrs. Afton. Probably combining details of both of them and putting it into one. Which is interesting. And I am not talking about the human Fiona, I am talking about the AI Fiona, because if the timeline serves correctly, then Fiona, the human one that is, passed away before their child was gone. So, that must be what's going on here. But considering that Fiona's personality was technically mimicked by the mimic, I guess you could say that's kind of true. Weirdly enough. Anyway, back to the main thing, I guess. What's going on here is an interesting subject and matter. And is something to actually really take note of, because the theme is, like he mentioned, repeating. Not the same way, but more like a simile. It's similar enough, but it has a different storyline to it. Like, the matter is the same, but it's not true. It's not a copy and paste, basically. But that is an interesting thing to actually know in this case, since I don't think this has ever been explored before. And I also learned some new theories that that seem interesting, and one that just, like, I'm actually confused why someone would actually think that thing about William and Fiona. That just seems really weird. Like, really, really weird. So yeah. Honestly, I think this is a really interesting matter to really think about. Because if that's the case, that means that we get a bit more lore when it comes to the mimic stuff, thanks to Ballora, which is actually kind of cool. Anyway, tell me what you think about this theory in the comment section below. I'd like to hear your opinions about the matter here and all that. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and to be sure to give T-Dread some love and support for the video that they made. This all said, hope you all enjoy, and I'll be sure to see you all in the next video. Bye!